it's Jonathan Herbst again, founder and CEO of ScaleUp Growth Partners. Welcome to our Stories of Scaling Up series, where I chat with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling companies. It centres around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for the companies. Today I'm speaking with Katie Ferro, who's CEO at Cornerstone. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to start by saying Cornerstone isn't spelled like you think it is. It's spelled CRNRSTONE.
Correct.
So where does the name come from?
I'm glad you asked. So we're a market research agency, and we provide a panel of people who've signed up to do market research projects from around Australia. We've got 105,000 around Australia. And we used to be called Stable Research. Now, Stable Research had been around for over 20 years, and it was very stable. And we had a niche, and we stayed in our niche. Every time we wanted to push out of our niche, we kept getting pulled back. So it was time, the previous founder left the business. She sold her business to a different organisation, and I was employed as general manager, then CEO, to run the business when she was moving out. So it was time to review our branding and our value proposition. And we came up with the name Cornerstone because providing the right people, like good quality insights, good quality data, the cornerstone of a quality insights research project. And you can make quality, rapid, insightful decisions on it. If you've got rubbish information, you make rubbish decisions. So we're the cornerstone of a market research project. And then, of course, we've got to be a bit modern, so we dropped a couple of vowels.
Choice.
And then we can talk like pirates if we want to.
So tell me, what do you actually do?
Well, me personally, or the business?
Or the business and you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the business, like I said, we're in market research. We've got a panel of people. We connect our clients to the audience they need to speak to get their insights from, either one-on-one interviews like we're doing today, or focus groups, online communities, online surveys. Then the client takes the information that they've garnered from the people they've spoken to. They draw the insights, they put together recommendations, proposal either for themselves and to make decisions and do different actions, or they pass it on to their client, combining it with other research they've done as well. So we're a market research recruitment agency. So not HR recruitment, but insight recruitment.
So give me an idea of some of the, before I do that. So Cornerstone's been, and in its prior life, has been around for a while. Yep.
Yes.
Who would you describe as your core customer, your best customer?
We have a few different buckets. So we deal with a lot of research agencies and large consulting firms. So, like the KPMGs, EYs of the world, and other research agencies like Kantar Insights, 55.5. There's a whole suite of big research agencies out there and small that use us. We also deal direct with the end clients, so corporate clients, FMCG, finance and banking, health, government, telecommunications. There's a whole suite of them. So they'll come to us with what they want, who they want to speak to. They'll brief us in on a project. They'll talk to us about the goals and objectives they have of their project. So we might be able to refine their spec and their brief according to what their needs are. Because sometimes, you might have found out this yourself. Sometimes somebody will brief you and they get exactly what they've asked for, but it doesn't actually meet what they need. So we always like to get on a call like this and have a talk through the objectives of the project, what they're trying to achieve, who do they need to talk to. We talk about some of the obstacles, some of the ways we can make life easy for them. So a good customer, a good client in this space is somebody who really knows the outcomes they're trying to achieve, has got a really robust understanding of the methodology they're going to use to do it, and they know how to provide a really good brief.
Okay. So you very much are, you match the client with the people they're going to research. Okay.
Yes.
So it's interesting. So you mentioned earlier you're working from home today. So we've all been through the pandemic. What are some of the actions you took during the pandemic that remain in the business today?
Okay. Well, I actually took over the role as CEO 2 weeks before the original work from home. So it was trial by fire. And to say that I was terrified is probably putting it mildly. But then, and I do have a couple of mentors to me outside of my business, but are in my industry. And one of them very wisely said, well, nobody's done what you're doing. So it's like, okay, I can do that. That was really good advice. And so when I took over, it was a very old-fashioned business. Everything was done on pieces of paper. So a brief was written on a piece of paper. It might have been typed into a Word document if you were lucky, but really handwritten, and then passed to the person sitting next to you to do their part of the process. And then that was passed to the person sitting next to them to do their piece. Then it was brought back to the original person to review and sign off an invoice. So that's what I inherited. So there were a couple of pieces of low-hanging fruit. Microsoft Teams for one, shared documents online for another. Moving from having physical visits with clients, because if you either had a physical visit or you had a phone call.
Yeah.
And you got to have the best of both worlds by having a Teams interview, because you get to meet them and chat with them in real time and see their face and have a chat, often see their pets, which was brilliant. So we kept a lot of the technology pieces in, the flexibility piece we've kept in. What else have we done with the pandemic? Privacy. So we've upgraded all of our privacy systems and training the team in, phishing attacks and why the processes are that we've got. And it's, nothing, reinforces that more so than Optus and Medibank recently.
Yeah.
So, because we hold a lot of personal data.
Of course.
Privacy is a massive thing for us.
Yeah. It's interesting. A friend and someone I coach do a really, really big role, and she started the role the day before the COVID lockdowns. Like you, she rang me and she just said, what do I do? And I said, well, in fact, she reminded me the other day. She didn't she texted me. And she showed me the text, which was, you're paid to be the CEO and make decisions.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're going to be right and sometimes they're going to be not so right.
Correct. It's been a very, very interesting ride. So tell me, what does the workplace look like now? So you're at home.
Yes.
Do you bring the team together? How's it work?
Yeah. So we're in the office most of the time together anyway. So I'm just at home today. I had a local appointment I had to go to, so it's easy. Well, with the team, with the permanent staff members, everybody works from home once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, all my casual workers, I have a lot of casual workers in the call centre. They're 100% in the office unless there's a prior arrangement, sick children, refrigerator repairments coming, We all have, needs to help that. And because we can all work remotely now, we've all proven we can, and we just do it.
Mm.
So you get the together, probably at least the whole team's together at least 2 days a week.
And that seems to be the trend. Everybody I speak to, all my research is saying that the hybrid model, bringing the team together for 2 weeks, I took 2 days a week, but structured, working, brainstorming, etc., is the model that seems to be working.
Yeah. And the whole thing is, the obstacle in that is because people got used to being at home, and I completely understand. I got used to being at home. I quite like it. I can do my washing. I can do, I've got a robot vacuum. I can make sure that goes and doesn't get stuck on anything. It's fantastic. But at the same time, it's really important for team connectivity to actually physically be in the same space as each other, and to try and do that without being too dogmatic, but also understanding the why. That really, really helps. So what I do say to people is, I do like you in the office on certain days, but I'm not going to be dogmatic about it. If some people, for whatever reason, like if it's a school pickup and the person they share that job with can't do that day, then look, fair enough. We've got to work around those things, because good employees are worth the flex for, and good employees are also going to buy into the culture regardless. But it's nice. It's nice thing to do.
Yeah. So thinking about going forward, what does the future look like for you and the company, and what are the main challenges you see going forward?
So for our business in particular, it's process and project management. Mm-hmm. Because we've come from such a paper-based system, and yes, sure enough, I just made everything electronic. I've still got the same processes and process flow, but just in Excel and Word. So with no real project management focus. So I'm working with an operations person to review a whole stack of different project management programs, just off the shelf, to see what's suitable out there.
Yep.
And just have better communications amongst the team. Because if we can do that, the whole offline working piece is much easier. And, resource allocation, resource, lead time ahead of time is much more helpful, because the cost of people is going up, the cost of space is going up. And if I can run my business more efficiently with the same people, if I can grow with the same amount of people, because we can do things 1.5 times faster, fantastic. Yeah. If we can make less mistakes, if we can keep the communication flow running really smoothly, that's ideal.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that. I'm sitting here, I've got 2 big screens, and right here is, quote, SOP, processing stories of scaling up videos and publishing them on social media, etc. We're redoing all of our processes and SOPs and checklists, and God, it's hard.
It's hard.
But it's the key to scaling.
It is.
If you want to build the business, getting this stuff right is absolutely key. And we found a hiccup today. It's like, okay, let's go back and relook at this little bit of this one process. And when you start looking at, I'm working with, clients we're mapping out, from the moment we need to hire a new staff member through to, writing scorecards, writing job ads, interviewing, the process, onboarding, all the way to offboarding. These are really big jobs.
They are.
It's but it's the key to scaling a business. The hard part.
Yes.
Good luck with that. If you need a hand, I do that a lot with my clients.
I do. Okay. Yeah. The technology
very,
side.
very, very, very happy to have a conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it might be okay. Yeah.
So, CEO now for what? 2 years?
2.5. Yeah.
Right. So, what do you reckon has been your biggest learning as a business leader?
Control the controllables.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1. Hope is not a plan.
Yeah, I like that.
And hubris, putting a budget together in a state of hubris is never a good idea either. They're my 3 big learnings. So we had a phenomenal year last year. It was absolutely knock your socks off. It was twice as good as any other year we've ever had. And we worked hard, we delivered excellent work, and we were just on a roll. And so I thought, okay, we're going to continue this momentum. We've got the wheel turning. We're going to keep pushing the momentum. We had a bit of staff turnover. They wanted to do different things, whatever, that's fine. Then I had staff training. So I had now the plan without the capability to execute the plan. So then we were failing on our plan or failing on our executing. And so we're delivering poorer and poorer work. If you're walking down the street and there's a whole stack of restaurants, you can see some which are full, some which are empty. Ours was beginning to get empty. And it's like, we have to stop this. We've got to slow down, pull back and retrain, and then start building up again. Get the right people in the right chairs, get the wrong people out of the chairs. And wrong can just be attitude, it doesn't have to be skill set.
Absolutely.
If you've got a poor attitude and you've got a great skill set, there's still no room for you in a medium-sized business.
Mm.
So
it always comes down to the people.
It always comes down to people, because business is people doing with people.
No, I agree totally. Think about the word successful. Who pops to mind and why?
Oh, who pops to mind? I don't know. There's like probably dozens of people come into my mind, because successful is really, you can put whatever measure up you want for success. So for me, success is, you're doing what you said you're going to do. You've got a deal of, you've set yourself up. You're achieving what you've got. You've got a great team of people. You've got great work-life balance. You've got good health. You've got good friendships and relationships. I mean, so success is such a full description. I couldn't sit there and say that one person was somebody that I admired for their success.
Really good answer. No, and this is actually one of my favourite questions because the range of answers I receive is phenomenal. And as you was just saying, if you were to do a circular chart and map, relations, professional relationships, personal, health, fitness,
Yeah.
And a colleague wrote a book called Your Parachute First. In other words, make sure you look after yourself. And one of the problems with CEOs, of course, is that there is no such thing as work-life balance.
No.
And how do we actually manage all of that to actually make sure we've got a life? And look at you and I, it's 2 minutes to 6 at night here. I mean, that's not too late, but here we are doing
not too late. And I'll still have another hour or so here on the computer anyway after this.
Yeah. Well, I've got your advantage, you're working at home. My advantage is I live in Barrow. My house is next door, and we bought this one and turned it into the business office. So
fantastic.
Jump the fence.
Yeah,
it's a key part of that success for me.
Yeah.
Is I leave the office, if that makes sense. And with young children. Are you a reader? Any business books, podcasts, biographies?
Actually, I'm reading at the moment. What got you here won't get you there.
Yep. Marshall Goldsmith.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, no. What was it?
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Goldsmith?
I think it's Marshall Goldsmith.
It could be. It was actually gifted to me. What got you? Yes, Marshall Goldsmith. Yeah, that's it. Yep. And that's really, really fascinating because, sometimes you question yourself that I did a really good job through COVID, but that was all about really tight management controls, really tight operational. Now, if I continue to do that in a growth phase, it's not going to work. I've got to take a step back. I've got to allow others to step into that and manage the tightness. And I've got to go out and BD and spruik and, network, bring in new business, think of new ideas, think of new topics and products, etc., that we can add to our portfolio, different ways of interacting with our panel members. Like we've just gone onto TikTok, we've just started doing Instagram Reels, never done it before in our life. And so I hired this fabulous young guy and he's just brilliant. And so now we're in TikTok and now we're in Instagram and, doing stuff like that. And I couldn't do it if I was still doing the micro management, which I had to do during COVID to make sure we had a business at the other end.
No, it's a really good point. And it's a really good book.
It's a really good book.
Yeah. So anything else you could think of? Do you listen to podcasts?
I do listen to podcasts. Actually, I used to always listen to Business Wars.
Right. Yep.
By Wondery. They were fantastic. But I haven't listened to podcasts for a while, I must admit. So, no, I do. I'd like to get back into them a bit because once I get into a podcast or if I get an audio book, so I travel into Waterloo, so sometimes it's an hour and a half each way. There's a lot of listening time.
Yep.
And so it'd be good to get back into it, actually, rather than, eat into my sleep time.
Very good point. So, Katie, any last piece of advice or parting words for an aspiring CEO, aspiring entrepreneur, or current CEO?
Well, get some good mentors on side, people that you can completely trust and talk about anything with who are outside your business. People who know your industry is very helpful, but people who are likable and easy to talk to and are honest is the best way to do it. So I'm really, like I was saying at the beginning, I've got 2 mentors. They're both from within my business. They're both really highly regarded individuals, very successful in their own right. And I feel absolutely blessed to have these 2 men in my corner that I can ring at any time, email, Teams call. One guy lives in Bali, one is actually in Canada at the moment. And it's just, I can talk about anything. I can talk about my fears. I can talk about the day that I feel like a failure. I can talk about the days where I can just punch the sky with joy. And I can whinge about people and put in plans about people that is not appropriate to talk to my people with. And it's fantastic to do it. So I couldn't do it with my board because, I'm the CEO. I can't go to them with my fears and doubts and, chinks in the armor. You've got to be on point the whole time. But with these guys, I can absolutely, be that person, because as soon as you're completely open with these people, they can see who you are for all you are, and they can actually give you advice that's not only going to suit your business or your problem, but give you feedback on the solutions you're providing, but also give you the watch outs based on their knowledge of you, because you've been so open with them.
Really good point. And thank you for the plug for my business.
It's true. It's true.
And look, you are right. And but the other thing, is that interesting. I read a blog about this not long ago about the concept of virtual mentors as well. Mm-hmm. So, you can have mentors in your industry. You can have a coach like me who's, industry agnostic, but will bring the best, easy ways of doing it. But I also have a series of virtual mentors. Mm-hmm. And I sort of came up with the concept during COVID. There's a guy called Joe Polish who runs an organisation called the Genius Network in the US. So I've got Dan Sullivan, who's actually my coach, who runs Strategic Coach. Peter Diamandis, there's about half a dozen virtual mentors that I follow, and I get extraordinarily good value from learnings. Particularly when they're focused at what I'm interested in, which is CEOs and scaling. But there are lots of ways of getting mentors, even if you just can't actually find a personal.
Absolutely. And I'm lucky because my business pays for one mentor and I don't pay for the other mentor.
Perfect.
So we did pay initially, and he said, look, I don't think you need to pay me anymore. We'll just catch up. So, okay, that's fine. So, we don't have that necessity on connecting on a regular basis, but we connect at least once a fortnight.
Great.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's a very your board obviously has got the right attitude to be paying for mentors, coaches. It's a great concept because it just adds so much value. I know I'm biased, but
no, they really do. I was at a presentation the other day. So I'm a board director on our peak body ADR, Australian Data Insights Association. I got onto the board last week actually, and part of the AGM we had a guest speaker come in. Her name's Katie Gibbs something or other. She's managing director of WPP, so a very big agency. She wouldn't be into the scaling up piece. She's got a mentor, Gary Duckworth. Quite a famous, one of those, people go, oh, that guy, I don't know. So what's her name? I'll just quickly look her name up. But she was awesome. Katie Riggs-Smith. There we go.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, Chief Strategy Officer, Australia, New Zealand, WPP. Yeah. And so she has this mentor, and when she was starting out on her leadership journey, and she talked to him quite often, and she got her first senior role, and she's they just don't like me. He goes, they're not going to like you. You can't want people to like you. You're not going to be a good leader if you want people to like you. He goes, the best you can hope for is respect. So aim for respect, don't aim for like, because you're never, ever, ever going to get that battle.
Well, and look, as a CEO, you're the one making the hard calls.
I had to make 3 people redundant a couple of weeks ago, partly for my hubris budget, which was absolutely the most lousy thing I've ever had to do myself. But it wasn't lousy telling the individuals that they were redundant. And I don't mean that in a really mean, nasty thing, but when you're talking one-on-one with somebody and you can explain the situation, mostly they're going to know what's going on because we've already been flagging that we need to do a mini restructure. So people know. It was when I had to go and announce it to the whole team, these people were leaving.
Yeah.
And why? I wasn't I didn't say, I made a mistake. But, it's really difficult times because these people are important. They've got families, they've got responsibilities. We're leading up to Christmas. We wish them all the best. But I really had to make this decision for the business in order for the rest of us to be able to deliver what we can deliver for our clients. And, this whole making sure that we're a full restaurant analogy coming up. And when I had my board meeting was the day after I made the redundancy. So they knew what was happening, of course. And so, where do you want to start in the board meeting? They said, well, where do you want to start? So, okay, well, let's start with the bad stuff. Let's start with the redundancies and how that went. And, I got quite emotional sharing that information with them. And they were sensational. I really thought I was going to have shreds torn off me. They said, no, this is why we challenge our CEOs so much in terms of delivering profit and top line growth to the business, because we are responsible for, 400 people's livelihoods. And if we get it wrong, then they're the ones that suffer first. And we don't like that. And I said, no, we do not like that. And so they were absolutely fantastic. They said, no, you've turned this business around. You can do this. We have complete faith in you. You just do what you do best. And it's like, oh, that's awesome.
And, Katie, there's a number of lessons in there to unpack. And, being a CEO or being a leader is not easy. It's not about being liked, but doing things with dignity, making hard calls and communicating with dignity. It's so important, and integrity, and there's one of the key thought leaders I follow is a guy called Jim Collins, and he's worth reading. In his book Good to Great, he writes about the 5 levels of leadership, and worth having a read off, and level 4 and level 5, and how a level 5 leader is, in fact, they're the key types that lead to enduring success.
What's this, Peter Collins?
Jim Collins, Good to Great is his book, and look for 5 levels of leadership. That is, by the way, that's probably the grounding of most of the coaching I do comes out of Jim Collins' work.
I'll have a look at that, because it's always a challenge. First of all, you face the imposter syndrome. What am I doing here and why am I here? And then once you're in it, you're just doing it. And then you've got to stop, like I said, with that whole what got you here won't get you there. And so it's pushing myself to get there and going through that process. And you've got to do it within your own style. You can't be somebody else's style. You've got to be your own. And, I'm born with a great deal of passion. So I've got that, that's the easy part for me. But the other part is, and also the integrity part is the easy part for me, because there's no point telling lies or trying to manipulate information because you forget. Right? Yeah. There's no point being caught out and stuff like that. And I don't see any point in it. I mean, obviously there's some things you don't tell people. That's just the way business has to go. But I think a lot of people don't get that. They think that management's trying to screw them over. And it's like, there's no screwing over. This is fact. This is the world. We are not a non-for-profit. We are for-profit. Yep. And we have to be a sustainable long-term business of viable proposition.
So imposter syndrome, I'm going to finish the interview with this. Have you seen Mike Cannon-Brooks's TEDx talk on imposter syndrome?
No.
It is a must-watch for every CEO. So Michael Cannon-Brooks is the co-founder of Atlassian.
Oh, yeah.
Atlassian is, 8,000 staff, IT scale up in Australia.
Yeah.
Extraordinarily impressive organisation. Interesting enough, they put down a lot of their growth to the stuff that scaling up, which is what I was first certified as a coach. But he did this. It's a 19-minute TEDx talk on imposter syndrome, and it is for any CEOs or anybody really.
I'll look at that too.
As what they've been through, and from two of them sharing a flat and a 24-hour business because I was selling into the US, and one of them picking up the phone and saying hello at Atlassian at 3 o'clock in the morning. And thought, oh, you need finance? Hold on. Hello, accounts payable. And then growing this business.
Oh, yeah.
and Mike he lives just around the corner from me. He says that every decision he makes, he still feels imposter syndrome, and here he is as arguably one of the key leaders in renewable energy in Australia and everything else.
Yeah.
That hits him all. So it's well worth it.
Yeah, no, I'll have a look at that. That's a great idea. I might do that one first in my car tomorrow.
Katie, great to speak to you. I really enjoyed the conversation, and there were some fabulous insights you brought out there.
I'll be speaking to you too, Jonathan, and thank you very much for your flexibility in the time shifts.
Not a problem. As I said, I enjoy the conversations. It's one of the, my highlights of my business. So really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.